Hello, everyone, and I'm so sorry to be late. We had a few technical difficulties. In particular, I had a few technical difficulties, but I'm here now, and I'm so happy to be here at the Ascension Roundtable with these wonderful friends. So I'm Nikki Fouere, and everybody, let's just go around and introduce ourselves. Max.
Me? Okay, all right. Hi, I'm Max, Breakfast with Max. I'm very happy to be here with you and to share this moment and share some stories, and we'll go through, we have a lot to cover, so let's get into it.
Fabulous. Summer?
My name is Summer, and I am just some guy, just like the rest of you, unless that's just a story.
Love it. Welcome. Kimberly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberley. I'm happy to join again. And what can I say? I'm just joyous to be in this co-creation once again with my friends. And let's talk about stories. So yes, we can go into labels about who we are, what we do for work, our identities. But again, what Summer alluded to is just a story.
Fabulous. Okay, so welcome everybody. And well, I just want to speak a little bit about what inspired me to choose this topic. You know, we've been talking a lot on this Ascension Roundtable about the shadow, moving into the parts of ourselves that we deny or don't like, and actually exploring and discovering who we are, these parts of ourselves that we don't know, in order, as we go in this, as we are on this inward journey, we discover more about who we are without these limitations and these stories. And so for a long time on my ascension journey, I've been concentrating on my limiting beliefs. That was the big one, like defining my limiting beliefs. And as I continue to do the work and explored through contrast and through triggers, some real core limiting beliefs about myself, it enabled me to push through a lot of fear and to no longer be driven or at least defined by these limiting beliefs. So I think it's really important to speak about myself and illustrate what I mean. So some really core limiting beliefs for me are I'm unlovable. It's a dangerous place. The world is a dangerous place. Those were two really big ones. And there are lots and lots of limiting beliefs that come up, and I establish new ones, right? It's sort of the process of being human. We explore fear. You know, we come here to experience fear, experience contrast, experience triggers, and move more into love. And in order to move into that state of love, we absolutely have to see all of who we are and accept exactly who we are right now, with or without the things that we perceive to be qualities or whatever. So the thing about limiting beliefs, I started to get the hang of it, and I started to see my patterns, and I see it in, you know, clients that I work with, and I see it in family members. We all are functioning through these beliefs that we formed either as children or even past lives. And I was thinking about this thing about stories, because lately in my vocabulary, the word stories has popped up. It's sort of how things go for me. Like I have a theme that will come up that will be pertinent to where I'm at in my life, and it will be something that'll be a focus for a while. And so I was thinking, well, how are stories, or how are my stories different from my limiting beliefs? And I was thinking about quite a few stories that I hold on to, that I actually believe, and that affect my reality in a different way from a limiting belief. So a limiting belief might prevent me from either to keep me in a pattern where I'm doing the same stuff, or it might be preventing me from actually taking risks and doing something different, because my limiting belief is what it is, like I'm not lovable. My story, for example, is that it could be anything, but one that occurred to me recently was my story around safety. How do I define safety? So for me, safety is a big one. So I grew up in this family where I didn't feel safe. So as an adult, I've needed to feel safe. I felt I need to feel safe. Well, first of all, I could say that safety is an illusion, because we are safe the moment we're born, and our experience on this earth, no matter what befalls us, we are always whole and safe, and our guides are there to protect us, and safety is actually an illusion. But my definition of safety, although it has varied over the years, one of those definitions for me of safety, and my story around safety, is I'm safe if somebody loves me. And if they don't love me, then I'm unsafe in the world. And it could be just one person, it could be a partner, it could be a friend. But this idea of safety has been functioning in a lot of different arenas in my life. Also, safety is having a job. Safety is having a certain number of friends. So if, especially this year, a lot of friends fell off the out of my life, and things changed. I moved into another vibration, and it wasn't a match to certain people, and things really got narrow this year. And I realized, because I kept saying, I feel lonely. I'm just feeling lonely. And I realized I'm not lonely. I'm discovering who Nikki is without the safety nets, right? And so the idea of holding on to a story is that it permits me to function in a certain way in my life. And at the same time, because I'm attached to these stories about my identity, about who I am, it limits me, because I'm all boxed in. It's like my own personal prison. And so I've become more and more aware of my stories. And they're so subtle. It's sort of like your eyelashes. You don't even know that you're telling these stories, because they've become the fabric of your identity. And so it might be semantics to say that stories are different from limiting beliefs. But for me, it's very tangible, the story that I tell. And it's also something that I can, once I have awareness, I can tell a different story. So, Byron Katie, I don't know if any of you heard of Byron Katie, but she has this amazing sort of series of questions she asks. And one of them is, when you have contrast, or you're triggered, or you have a situation where you're not aligned, and you're not feeling in a high vibration. So there's something coming up, and you ask yourself, what is my story around this? And you go through a series of questions, and then you get to this place where you're like, who would I be without that story? And I think that's where it gets really interesting. Who am I without this story that I need this person to love me in order to feel valuable and loved in the world? Who am I without this idea that if I don't make a certain amount of money every month, then I'm a failure, right? And I read something recently, or I heard something, and it was something like a little puppy. If you've ever had a pet, or you have a niece or a child or whatever, and you love that animal or that nephew or whatever, you love them with all your heart, and you don't care if they make mistakes, and you don't care if they don't get it right. You don't care even if they get mad and they stomp their feet, or they especially with pets. Pets are the perfect example of experiencing unconditional love. They love you no matter what you do. You can forget to feed them. You can, yell at them, or, whatever, and they come right back and love you back, And what would it be like to take that approach with myself? To take all those stories that I am attached to, one at a time, and break them down and see if they're really true or not. Some stories are true, and it's good to have. This is our experience, our human experience. But I find it fascinating, this inward journey, because the layers keep peeling, more is revealed, and through knowing myself, through these experiences and this processing, I'm beginning to really see who I am, and like who I am, and love who I am. and without all the limitations that I've, you know, held on to for such a long time. So voila, that's my story about stories. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on how you experience stories.
Yeah, can I just...
Max, go for it.
Because you said something very interesting about, you told yourself a story there that is very interesting, which is that when you go into a certain, you are limiting yourself. And that's funny because yesterday I was in session with Roxy, and I was saying the same thing as you have, and she said to me, are you really, you already repeated 2 or 3 times the same thing, that you are cutting yourself from yourself, that you are limiting yourself. And she said, are you really doing that? Or are you doing the work? And I said, that's interesting, because isn't that exactly what we're supposed to do? Are we really cutting ourselves or limiting ourselves? Or are we challenging ourselves, or are we pushing ourselves into more stories, into more of us, and discovering through our stories more of ourselves? And that was interesting, because we were having yesterday this discussion together, and I was telling you about a story that I was telling myself about abundance, and cutting myself from that, not seeing the big picture and just limiting myself to the little picture of fear. And then as soon as I realized that, am I really, really, really doing that? And then I said, well, no, I cannot do that. Or I'm telling myself a story of limitation. But somehow I realized, how can I limit myself? How can I not be myself, even in the moments where I feel that I'm fucking it up? And my goodness, how many moments I'm telling myself that? Many, 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 many. But then, if I were not going through those moments, how will I know myself? How will I discover myself? So all these stories to discover ourselves, more of ourselves. How can I know that I'm still holding some belief systems if I'm not pointing myself to those belief systems by telling myself a story? So these stories are very interesting, because they are leading ourselves to discover ourselves, to know more about ourselves. And I think it's very fascinating, because then we can take everything back to the story. Everything is a story. I am a story. I am the biggest story I'm telling. Go ahead.
Max, what's your story?
I am my story. I am my biggest story.
Give us a clue.
My goodness. Oh, well, my story is a story of luck. And I realized this today. I've been telling myself a lot of luck through all my whole life, in refusing to see my abundance, but also holding views of what is abundance, what is success, how can I get success? How can I get there? And I've always been telling me that I need to have a good job, a good salary, and my salary has to increase at least every 2-3 years to get to. I was telling myself that if I really wanted to be in a good place with myself, I had to have more than $10,000 per month. And for me, that was really the moment where I could say, I'm abundant, I'm successful in my job. And you know what? I did that. I got there for a while. And guess what? I didn't feel any more successful. I didn't feel any more better than anything. And actually, when I got there, it didn't last very long. So, and I was holding that, and I thought that was giving me value, and confirmation and affirmation and everything, until it didn't. And when I realized that it wasn't that, I even didn't regret it or feel anything about that. I just went on, right? Because I realized that was not being happy or being anything, and that you cannot have that in permanency. There is no permanency in anything of like that. So yeah, that was a big story I was telling myself. Anyone else?
Yeah. Well, oh, you go, Summer.
Oh no, go ahead if you.
It's all good. No, I was just going to jump on what Max said. That, yeah, at the end of the day, we are stories of the one, right? Like just us having a unique life experience. This is, at the end of the day, our story of source, right? And the biggest story that limits us is our perceptions of who we are and our perceptions of, I guess, our individualistic nature. And there's nothing wrong with that. And at the end of the day, we judge our journey. That's probably the biggest thing that limits us in creating stories. We are creating stories, whether you're conscious of it or not. The fact that you're living and breathing, you are living in a story, because in the day, you're a source, you're one. So in the day, it doesn't matter what story you create. However, you have a choice to create an empowering story or disempowering story. So that's the key. You can't get out of creating stories, because you're having an individualistic experience as part of oneness, right? But identity, ego, all these things that allows us to have a perception of uniqueness, of duality, that's kind of, that's what is allowing us to have this experience. So, I guess, I personally have gone through all this as well, even just recently, but it's about letting go of this perception of identity. I think that's the biggest thing that holds us into not creating empowering stories for ourselves. Our identities, what we create. A lot of us, we're attached to, I guess, our career, what we do, how others perceive us, and that's a story. So if certain circumstances doesn't manifest in accordance to that, to our career, to our attachments, then we judge who we are. And then it's about understanding that to live in the most expanded, limitless way, it's about detaching ourselves from our sense of identity, detaching ourselves about how we perceive ourselves in our reality. And it's okay. It's an exploration. So in the day, it doesn't really matter how you explore it. It's up to you if you want to explore it in suffering or explore it in joy. And I think the key is, in my experience, is you just have to, I know sometimes it's very challenging when things don't manifest the way you perceive it to be. And like Max, to do with career or, doing this work, if things aren't manifesting the way it should be, you might judge yourself, I'm not successful, and who am I? I'm a failure in what I do when I'm teaching this stuff. How can I, it's a lot of self-judgment that we all do, right? It's part of the human experience. Understand that the universe works in mysterious ways. We work in mysterious ways. It's giving us opportunities to explore new ways of being. So if you can see the higher picture, that if you can let go of this sense of identity and attachments to outcomes and just go with the flow, whatever is presented to you, that's when you can co-create in the most expansive way through the story of physical life. So in the day, it's just, you just have to roll, flow with the waves, right? But personally, of course, just, it's only human nature. And of course, we're much more than human. We're having a human experience. So you need to kind of just roll with it. And yeah, like with Max, similarly to the whole success thing in terms of monetary value, right? I think that's a common one we all experience, right? And I personally was going through this too. And I was like, okay, so this work that I'm doing, if I'm not manifesting in accordance to what I've been guided to do, because like for me, for instance, all the work, or this, what we call as spiritual work, but understand that everything is spiritual, right? And again, the whole label of something being spiritual is a label, is a story, because in the day, every breath that we take is spiritual, right? So again, that's another story within a story, right? So when things weren't manifesting the way I actually attached to, because everything that I do with the work that I do is from guidance. So if I follow the guidance and things don't manifest, right, even when I see glimpses of things and they don't manifest, I'm like, I wonder what's that about? And then you kind of, and for me, yes, I look at myself and go, okay, did I don't know, am I a failure? Have I done something? All that kind of limited stories, right? And then through this process, through my own inner work, because yes, you all have to do it. I've had to do a lot of it very recently, actually. I realized that it's, again, perfectly where I'm supposed to be. And so are all of you. No matter what you're exploring, no matter what your circumstances are, it is for you. Like I said, it might not look like things are manifesting according to the divine plan. You might be doing everything that you're guided to do and still things aren't showing up the way it's supposed to. And yes, you're probably judging your journey, but it's giving you opportunities to maybe explore another path that perhaps you weren't willing to explore before. So if you can just like let go of it and just flow. Even the work that I'm doing, I'm about to go into a transition in the amount of work that I offer. And at the start, the circumstances that presented myself, of course, I was like, how is that going to be? If I'm putting more of this work out into the world, is it going to somehow limit, I don't know, like, because we think also in linear time, right? We think of, okay, I'm not putting all these hours into it. Does that mean I'm going to have less results, less success, less? Because again, that's all attached to measures of success. That's limited and linear time. But then when you understand that time is not linear, even if you have, 1 hour of your day to do like overt, stuff that you're guided to do, even though you might not think, okay, well, I'm not putting X amount of hours into it. Understand, because of how the universe works and time is non-linear, when you're inspired to do, an hour's amount of time of work, for instance, that could be the energy input that you put in. It can be like a whole week's worth of work. It's about detaching as well from the concepts of non-linear time and seeing everything that you do in your reality as a spiritual lesson is part of your path. If we start to, I've been doing this too. I mean, I've processed this and I'm now going with the flow, but I know there was a time when I was really attached to, okay, this is my spiritual work. Okay, doing other non-spiritual work, it was kind of like not a waste of time, but it wasn't important to the whole greater picture in what I do, right? But now I've learned over the years that that's just as important. That's just as spiritual. It's just in disguise. So it's about seeing every breath that we take, every moment is part of our story of expansion. It's how we manage, it's how we perceive each moment. Do we see limitation or do we see it as part of our evolution? It's just, yeah, I mean, of course we get triggered. Of course we go into fear. Of course, we might see ourselves as victim from time to time. It's part of the human story, and it's this dance of contrast, right? Going from fear to love, and that's how we expand. So it's actually a necessary movement of polarity. So even if you can be non-resistant to that, even if you judge your journey, judge how you see yourself, judge your success, judge your stories, it's okay. It's okay, because we all do it. It's just about acknowledging it and knowing that you're just having a human experience. It's the self-judgment, I think, that in my experience too, the self-judgment that we put on our own creations, co-creations, that can limit us. So it's just open yourself to explore whatever is in front of you, whatever is manifested, because it's part of your expansion story. So it's just about embracing it and just accepting it, whether it's conditions that perhaps are not preferred. On the greater picture, it is in some way it's for you. So it's just doing that soul work all the time and seeing how it can be for you, trying to see, even if it's the most difficult circumstances, what is the silver lining in this? You can co-create your story. We're always co-creating a story, even if you're conscious of it or not. So how can you see it as an empowering story, no matter what circumstance are you going through? How can you see what is the potential you can see in it? How can this be for you? How can this expand you? Like there's always positives. There's always high perspectives in everything you're going through, even the most difficult challenges. So I guess it's just opening your senses and just embracing whatever's in front of you, because whether you're conscious of it or not, we're creating stories because we're in co-creation in physical life, guys. So we have, it's about how we choose to do that. It's up to us. Summer, you want to jump in?
Listen to the sound of my words. What you are experiencing right now isn't me. You're experiencing yourself. But because of the projection that you live in, you ascribe this energy to me. It isn't actually mine that you're experiencing. You're just using me as a mirror to reflect you back to yourself. When you start to feel more of that energy, you can fall back in love with the being that you really are, that is far beyond any of these conversations that we are having currently. You are literally the experience you think you're in. And when you start to recollect more of who you are, you start to see the majesty of the real being that you've always been the entire time. This is your story. It's not mine. It's not happening around you. It's all you. And the same is true for each and every single person on this planet. The discovery that each we are onto ourselves is the whole purpose and point of this creation. You only wish to play this game with yourself in order to unwrap the secret that you're keeping from yourself. And when you finally get it, you'll have everything you think you have to earn, buy, or pay for in the outside world, because it's all you. And there's nothing really outside of that. So if you think you have to go down a certain path to get what you are, you're mistaken. And life will continually disappoint that story, hoping that one day you will reappoint yourself to the being you can't not be. You are everything you're seeking, and anything else is your story. So if anything I can do for you is to do what I've done for myself and give you back to who you've always been, because that is the whole point of this experience.
Thanks, Summer. What's your story? Do you have a story you want to tell us about you?
Well, actually, stories are the most like important thing in my life. I was just talking on another talk about a story that inspired me to begin with, and it is literally what I'm describing right now. It was a story that I wrote when I was at film school, and the whole concept was to create a story that would return the audience back to themselves, literally. There was a journey, there was a conflict, an illness that the characters had, and there was some mysterious cause of this illness that was buried deep in a forbidden wood that they weren't allowed to cross into, but they do anyways. So in this journey, they finally get to the core, the center of these woods, and they dig up this old chest. And inside the chest is this book that is literally the entire journey of them to get there and dig this stuff up. End of story. And the whole point is to try. I mean, some people would probably think it was just pretentious BS or whatnot, but the whole point was to collapse the story and return people back to themselves. That the journey, in many senses, that you're taking, all of it, no matter how wrapped up you are in it, no matter how romantic it is, or how dangerous it is, or how much it compels you to hold on to it or participate in it, it's all just a play that you're playing with yourself. And that story preceded my awakening so that I could actually like experience this firsthand and know like the reality of this story. And from that point, I've also met other individuals who are like masters of that, people that I call the strangers. And they are literally like the conscious version of each of us onto ourselves. I mean, like if you think about it, when you're with your family, you are either like a daughter, a son, or like a father and a mother. When you're your friends, you're like, you know, a friend to those people. When you're at work, you're like whatever position you are. But all of these, in a sense, are just kind of stories that you play. But if you stand back far enough and you see the person who embodies that, who is all of those at the same time, you have a greater sense of like the true being that you actually are. And so a lot of that I find is recollection, like literally recollecting yourself, like recollecting who you actually are. And when you start to do that, like I've had this experience like tremendously in my life, you step into joys and pleasures that you will remember experiencing when you were the youngest of young children. And it is like treasures that are truly, truly priceless, like something you could never earn in the outside world, like treasures that are beyond description or expression, really, like in any way. You can always try to create symbols that point towards it, but the true joy is like the experience itself. And it's just like the thing that you never lose. Like everything that's powering, in a sense, like the worst stories that you've ever lived is like that being who is like the greatest story that you've never heard. And it's your story. It's who you are. There will never ever be another story that is more satisfying than the one that you're living. There is nothing that is more perfectly fit for the unique signature of creation that you are than to really know yourself completely. And it's not like a baton that you want to beat yourself over the head with. It's like a gift. It is like it's everything you want, like hungrily, greedily. Like it's those things that you crave that make you seek things in like negative places or like hurtful or injurious places that exist within you, like really knowing truly who you are. And I think there is a lot of fear that we believe from people who live those fears around us, about actually taking that time and like following yourself back into the core, into the center of who you are, and then realizing that is what you have been seeking the entire time. And I think this is an important story in New Age, because it's the summation of what it means to really awaken, because that's literally what it is. You're not getting a higher state of being so much as recollecting the one that you left behind to begin with. It is not a journey of becoming some sage. It's a journey of becoming superhuman. And that is like the reality of what it actually means to like experience that. Like, you don't find anything but the treasure trove of you-ness, like whatever that means specifically to you. And it is a fingerprint experience of reality that only you have the key to unlock and experience. It is like your gift. It is your treasure. It is everything you deserve and desire in any way that you possibly could be. And it wants you more than you even realize you want it right now. And you're using all your energy to suppress it, to fight it, to run away from it, and to do anything but disguise, like to do anything to disguise it from actually being something you can see clearly and really get to that point and just like have it all, because that's what it means to really completely be who you are. So
That was so beautiful. Thank you, Summer. And you know, that is exactly it. It's that journey back to remembering who we truly are, the essence of who we are. And yes, I see it in my clients. I see it in people that people around me, and I see it in myself. And Roxanne would say this, it does require work to get to that place you were talking about, where you can be in that observer state and you can see yourself in your victimhood, or you can see yourself in your joy and your ecstasy, and it all has value. It's all good. That truly is this state where we get to move out of that duality and into oneness, right? And just glimpses of it is complete and utter joy. You said something like, upon my awakening, that's when I began to know who I truly was. I remembered who I was. And, I remember growing up, and as I became a young adult, I had a story, and I think like I had it down so well that it was like rote, and it goes something like this. I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. My mother was an alcoholic, and it just went on and on, how I was dealt the raw deal, and I didn't, it was complete victimhood. And wow, who would I be without that story? And I got to move beyond that story. And that's the incredible thing. These things that we live are stories, but they're also experiences. So what would it be like to move into that place where you observe the story, And as I've continued on this path, I have a lot more neutrality when it comes to my visits to the stories. And it's always interesting to have that state of curiosity to say, oh, I see myself doing that right now, And I love what Kimberly said about judging our journey. And I don't know if we earthlings are the only ones who do that. We came here with 3D, and it was like this exploration of unworthiness. But everything's changing, right? Everything's evening out, and I'm a freedom seeker. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on this call. That's why I am willing, and I have the courage to look at myself. And anybody who's on this call or watches the recording, there are so many people out there. We talked about this on the last podcast, that are there to support you and love you, not just friends or fellow light workers, but also, and your guides, but pick up the phone and ask somebody to help you if you're in a dark spot, because it always passes. But it's sort of part of the journey. I mean, I'm not saying we have to suffer, but self-examination sometimes requires courage, because we've we've all gone through different experiences that have not necessarily created our identity, because I love what Kimberly said about that, that we can detach, we get to choose. This is the thing. Being on the spiritual journey, being awake, allows us to have choice. And that choice keeps getting broader and broader as love gets, as I move more into love and as we move more into love. So thank you for that, Summer. And who else would like to join in?
Yeah, another story. And I think that this is a story that we are touching at, and a lot of people are telling themselves this, and that is that as I'm going through this path of self-discovery, awakening, ascension, etc., I should be perfect. I should already be perfect right now, and not know any weakness or any or everything should be there at my disposal right now. If I want something, well, it has to be manifested very quickly, because I don't have the patience of waiting. And I realized that I was telling myself that story, that I was not passionate with myself, because I've done all of this, and now why am I waiting for results? They should be already here right now. And going through the pain and the dissatisfaction and all of that, forgetting one thing, and that is true, that time is not real. However, it is also true that we do create time as a tool in this reality. So we have to take what we will call the long road to get there, which is the road of time. We're not done with time. Time is still a tool. And really, I think that this is one of the things that we need to humble ourselves into, right? Seeing this as not a punishment, but as the tool that we have. We go through time. We get there eventually. It's an attraction. We'll attract it. And I realized that, Ray, I was telling myself a story of realization. I have to gain it. I have to be worthy of it, in the sense that if I'm worthy, I'll get it. Forgetting that the worthiness is not something that you get, it's something that you are. We are already worthy. We are already everything. But right, we come also from lack. So the lackful side that we have, it's not saying that, it's just saying, well, what is not there? Wanting what is not there. Forgetting that it's there. It's already. Because one of the first stories that I told myself, that I realized, is I had this illumination. I said, well, I'm a thought. I am a thought. So in fact, that I'm attracting, the reality I am in, already exists. So I'm attracting it. Then my house in Canada is already there. And now I have to choose whether I'm going to tell the story of how I get there in Canada with my house. That's the story that in time I have to tell myself. How do I get to the house that I know is there? I know it. Then how don't I get into expectation of having the house? But if I go into expectation, well, I'm distancing the house. I'm not attracting it. So it's complicated, to be honest. I know I haven't yet figured it completely out, but there's some moment you realize these things about yourself. Oh, I'm doing this. I'm still holding this belief. success, of how do I attract it? Oh, I just want it. Give it to me. It doesn't work like that.
Max, you could come to my house in Canada if you want to.
Well, you see, I mean, it took literally 1 minute to have the house in Canada.
Ask and it is given.
You
Yeah.
see?
and you know, like Max, I you know, my hand up, probably a lot of you out there that's doing all the manifesting journey, you know, or the law of attraction explorations. Understand there's other elements in there. Sometimes for your highest good, and I'm not saying your occasion, Max, but in circumstances, we might really want something, but for our highest good, we don't actually want it, right? So we judge ourselves, why can't I manifest that damn house? I'm doing everything. And then we like, okay, I'm a failure at manifesting. That's it. And then we give up. But understand that it's not the end point destination. We as humans like to go to point A to point B, and we put the importance on point B. And that's not point B. That's not the focus here. It's the journey. Doesn't matter about point B. Doesn't matter about the outcome. So it's like sometimes we're not supposed to get to that outcome. Even all the manifesting that we do, and you're wondering why is it not manifesting? Perhaps for your highest good, you're not supposed to. But we judge why we can't manifest something, and that creates more resistance. And then we can't see the clarity to the journey that you're traveling through. So the magic is in the journey. It's not about the end goal. It's not about the end manifestation. Me, myself included, especially those of us out there who are very psychically sensitive, intuitive sensitive, and can actually perceive glimpses of certain future outcomes, right? Because there's many different future possibilities. Yes, the house is already there. There's so many realities that are occurring simultaneously, right? There's already a future here. There's already a future. And we can tap into all of them. We can receive messages. Okay, but that's another thing. Understand it's about the present moment. What do you really want for your highest good? What you really want is to explore the present moment. And sometimes, right, no matter if you follow all the guidance, you do all your work, you got a high vibration, you follow those inspired inspirations, you follow the action steps, things manifest, and it doesn't come to according to plan in your perception, right? So we judge ourselves, but understand that's how it happens sometimes. We think we're going this way, and all of a sudden the universe makes us go another path, and then we go, okay, I'm not on my path anymore. No, you're still on your path. It's just because you attached yourself to what you want to manifest. You've attached yourself to the point B, how to get there, but you don't know the opportunities that lay by taking a side path. It's all part of the one path. It's happening to me as well. I'm actually, the work that I'm doing, I'm having to reduce my hours in the work that I'm doing. And yeah, it kind of triggered me a lot at the start, processing that. And I had these limiting beliefs that, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be as of service to people that I wanted to be. I'm not going to be able to get my message out in the way that I want to. My mission is depleted in some way. It's not, right? I had to do a lot of work around that, because exploring environments and different conditions that we might not perceive where we're doing, overt work, spiritual work, or whatever it is that you're guided to do, the fact you have more opportunities along the journey to connect with others, to explore new environments, new experiences in a new perspective. You expand not only yourself, you expand all others. And it's just that letting go of the attachment, right? And manifesting is one big thing that we all it's about, because we attach ourselves even to our work that we do and I have to just bring it back also to Summer, what he said. It was perfectly summarized, perfectly said. It's about being superhuman. We're here to have a human experience. So having part of the human experience, we're going to go into fear, we're going to have challenges, we're going to explore contrast. We're one, but we're here to have a human experience. So it's about connecting and just embracing all of life, every aspect, no matter if it feels like you're going off your path, you are not. So it's just, it's riding the rave. And yeah, sometimes it's not what you expect, but universe works in mysterious ways.
And you make me think of the formula, right? You act on your highest passion in as much as you can every moment, and then there is the part that we forget all the time, with no attachment as about any outcome. That's the part that we don't get. We forget that because we don't like it, right?
And we also give meaning to whatever that outcome is, right? It all has meaning, and we either, like the outcome, so we must be really worthy and valuable, right? Or we don't like the outcome and we failed once again. And that really is the duality experience. And it's back to me, for me, it's back to practicing that neutrality when we can. State of curiosity. Oh, my suitcase didn't arrive with my flight and I'm going to be in Las Vegas for 4 days without any clothes. Interesting. That actually happened to me. And I stayed in a state of curiosity. I was on a Joshua retreat. People like, Nikki, come, I'm going to give you clothes. People called to find out where my things were because I was coming from France and I was jet lagged and I just needed help and support. And if they had not lost my bags, I would not have experienced the vulnerability to open up to receive all that support and love. Every experience is an opportunity to surrender to what is. And in that powerful moment, which is the precious now, we get to experience it all. And it's that meaning we give to these experiences. Is it a story or is it an experience, and then the meaning we give to that experience. And it's so true. How is it for me? And when we're in it, sometimes we just need to be pissed off and be, we need to get upset or disappointed or whatever it is. And that emotion will be our guides. We can dig deeper when we have the emotion. And, me being a therapist, of course, I'm going to go like, okay, where have I felt this before, right? But nonetheless, our emotions are there to help us, and we don't have to be afraid of them. We can welcome them all. And it's that judgment thing that really surprises me, because like when I first got on when I understood the Ascension, and I'd known about law of attraction for a long time, but when I realized, oh my God, I'm waking up. Oh my God, this is an illusion. Oh my gosh. I was so excited. I felt so much enthusiasm. And so years down the road, I had a story that I should be further along. So now the judgment comes back in. Wait a minute, I had all this information. I had all this esoteric knowledge. I've been practicing all these, teachings. How could I be here and judging that journey? So thank you, Kimberly, for reminding me that we all do it. Thank you so much. I don't know if we have an opportunity for questions, do we?
Oh, wait, I wanted to say something about that because I was thinking, you're in Las Vegas and you lose your luggage. At least minimal finances permitting, you might actually find a more interesting outfit to buy somewhere, and you'd have exactly the permission slip you needed to take yourself shopping. Maybe go for lunch or something in that new outfit and just kind of, go the other direction entirely and make it well, I lost all my stuff, so I gotta enjoy myself, right?
Well, luckily, I had one of my best friends who has a beautiful wardrobe. We went into her room. She said, you need to wear the dress I'm wearing. She took it off and put it on me, and it looked gorgeous. Wow. Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
Then it was an amazing experience. So sometimes, we can be nicely surprised when we surrender. Max, do we have any questions?
No.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else to say before we wrap up? I know that we were at an hour now. Is there anything we can say to the people listening out there? Any tools for moving more deeply into remembering who you are? Everybody give one thing if you can.
Let go of resistance.
Say that again.
Letting go of resistance and accepting what is.
Beautiful. Anybody else?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. There's like another YouTuber that I follow. He has this saying, like, what is it? Amor fati. It's like Latin for love your fate. So like accept like where you are, what happens. Like own it. Like own it like you love it, even though it might seem like the complete opposite. But I agree too. I would say like my advice is like when things get really dark or challenging, disengage your mind a little bit and put your attention back into your body, because you can quickly see like, oh, I'm like holding my breath, or oh, I'm like a little tense in my body when I don't need to be, and it makes it like an immediate like disengagement of that reality, that experience that you're having, and you have like enough space to kind of like shift into like a more energy, more ability to actually handle what you're doing. So yeah, just put your attention back on your body, because your mind is trained to trick you out of like the whole experience. That, not your mind, but you've been trained by people who train their minds to trick themselves out of that, and that takes you away from like the full experience of who you really are. And I also want to add this, I forgot about this, but a lot of the reasons why those upsetting things come, like if you can't manifest something, is because you built yourself in a sense to be a particular story. So when you find you can't get what it is you're after, I have a saying that goes something like this: if you don't get what you want, you will get something better, because that is the nature of what it means to be here. And a lot of the times it's sort of like a child getting something that only the adult them will appreciate, and they'll be like, what is this? I don't want that. I want my like chocolate cookies or something like that, right? And you're getting like a house or something, and you're like, I don't know what to, or like a car, and you're like, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not interested in that yet. Or like some deed to something like complicated in your mind, but it ends up being the thing that saves your life later. And you have no idea, because you haven't changed and grown and become more of the person you built yourself to be. So it doesn't mean anything just yet, but it will later down the line. And so a lot of the times we're just like so angry or upset that we didn't get that thing, because that was like an immature version of the actual thing that you're like gonna get. And when you finally get there, you'll go, oh my God, like that is so much better. And it like hits the spot right at the right moment, and it all comes together, and it makes sense with your body, your mind, like all your experiences, and you know exactly why it was there in that way at that point. Sometimes it can even include the thing that you were after, but just in a different way you couldn't have expected. So that's my saying with these kinds of things, especially when the bottom drops out from underneath you, especially when it's like impossible that anything good could come out of this. If you don't get what you want, you are getting something better. So I guess I'll add that.
Yeah, it reminds me. It reminds me. I always say the story. I used to say the story of this guy that absolutely wanted to meet Lady Gaga, and it was an obsession. Lady Gaga, everywhere, and he got to have on a red carpet just 30 seconds for just a selfie with Lady Gaga. But that's what was the obsession, and that's what he got, and didn't realize that he had an opportunity to meet Christina Aguilera, but that didn't happen through that obsession. And meeting Christina Aguilera will have opened to him or her this opportunity of a career in songwriting or a collaboration with Christina Aguilera. But the obsession here made that opportunity was not there because of that. And yeah, that made me think of that. What I do when I am in that state where I feel that things are not getting well, I do in a exercise of breathing. I breathe slowly and deeply, and I concentrate, because generally when I'm in well, what you call bad state or fear or that kind of thing, it is located in my heart or some other place in my body. So I concentrate on that as I'm breathing, and I go into acceptance. So I accept whatever is I'm holding. I don't need to know exactly all the story. I just know that something is off. So I do that, breathing, accepting, and so that helps me to go back into my body and myself and get better.
I love it. You guys are so amazing. What powerful examples of master creators you are. I was thinking about the beautiful way that Kimberly said, you know, it's up to you if you're going to tell an empowering story or a disempowering story. And so what I would say is something that really is important for me to remember is it's time for me to be on my team, because for such a long time, I haven't been on my team. I've been judging myself. I've been disappointing myself. And so now it's no longer acceptable for me to abandon me. So I am choosing to accept exactly where I'm at. And if anybody out there has been telling themselves some disempowering stories, forgive yourself right now and start in this very moment, this very precious now, to tell a new story. That's all I have. Anybody else? Otherwise, we're gonna. Yeah,
I was
go.
just gonna say that actually when you started telling your story, I was like, oh, just don't worry about it. Like, even if you don't get this right, or you're not listening, or you forgot to, like, don't, just forgive yourself. Just forgive yourself. Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's okay. Like, you can fuck up everything, and that's fine. Just forgive yourself. It's okay. Like, the only real love that actually exists is unconditional. Anything that isn't actually love, and that's not what you want. So don't worry about it. Like, forgive yourself. That is fine. You can fuck up like the worst in the worst possible way. Love is love. It is like forever, unconditionally, and that you have it forever and ever. Just don't worry about it and move on from there. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, that's what I would say. You're like mute, Nikki.
Yeah, I was just going to say that each of us is very unique, and when I was listening to you earlier, Summer, that's what came out was how each of us is so unique, and what would it be like to honor that uniqueness? You know, we have a tendency to look at the person who's, I don't know, younger, skinnier, richer, more successful, whatever it is. What would it be like to simply honor our unique journey? You know. Anyway, well, that's it for tonight, I suppose, unless anybody wants to add anything else. No? Okay, so thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be joining each other again in 2 weeks for another Ascension Roundtable. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Watching.